Hi, Risk Manager. In the last 2 weeks, I looked into how you can do hazard analysis and FMEA inside Jira. And this week, I'm going to tell you a little bit about risk reporting. Risk reporting is a really important part of risk management for your own team, for your management, but also for your quality managers for audit preparation. When you're doing risk management inside Jira, you have various ways to report risks. You can build Jira dashboards and use the gadgets from the risk management apps. You can export risks into CSV or PDF, or you can bring your risks onto your Confluence pages. Today, I'm going to show you how you can pull risk reports directly from Jira into your Confluence using the SoftComply Risk Manager for Confluence Cloud app. There's no copying, no exporting, just always current, clear visuals about your risks. Instead of juggling spreadsheets and screenshots, you can embed risk matrices, risk registers, or history graphs into your Confluence pages. Every change in Jira is instantly reflected on these macros. It's a seamless way to report your risks for audits, for decision-making, or for your stakeholder reports. Let's dive directly into how you can do risk reporting, and let's start with Jira dashboards. Here we are inside Jira, and we have a risk dashboard. We named it Risk Dashboard. And we can add gadgets to this dashboard. I've already added some risk matrices here, but I'm going to show you how you can add more. You add gadgets and you can search for gadgets. Let's say we search for risk, and if you have Risk Manager or Risk Manager Plus apps installed, you will see these two gadgets for your risk dashboard. You can add your risk matrix or you can add your risk table. Let's start with risk matrix, and the first thing we need to do is select the risk project from where you want the risk matrix to be shown on your risk dashboard. Let's say they have a project called SAMD Product Risks, and in here I can define the information I want to see on the risk matrix. If I want to have the full report, I will tag everything so I can see all the risks, the Jira issue keys. I have all the counts of risks. So what that means is that when you have a risk matrix, you can see how many risks are in every one of the risk classes or risk levels that you have on your model. Risk class description, a very important thing for your risk reporting is to understand when is a risk acceptable and when it's not acceptable, when you need to mitigate it. And of course, for everything like characteristic descriptions for risk parameters as well. So you can do a long and you can do a short risk report. In Risk Manager Plus app that we are using here, you can assign multiple risk models for each one of your Jira project. You also have this choice of which one of the models you want to report here. So let's say that we want to have a hazard analysis risk matrix here. And when we press apply, we can see the risk matrix being generated. So in here, we have the SAMD product risk initial and residual risk matrices. We can see that initially in the risk assessment, we have several very high and serious risks. And in the residual risk matrix, we can see that we have already mitigated all the high risks into acceptable level. This is how you can do a risk matrix. And now let's add also a risk table from the same project. So again, after adding the risk table gadget onto a Jira dashboard, we have to select the Jira project from where you keep your risks. So let's say we want the same project, the SAMD product risk project. We select the sheet. So again, here, just a reminder, in the SoftComply Risk Manager Plus app on Jira, you can have multiple risk tabs or risk sheets as you have in spreadsheets in Excel as well. So in here we have hazards and FMEA. We want to see the hazard analysis here, and we press apply, and then the risk table is generated. It looks exactly like the table you have in Jira. You can scroll all the way to the left to see all the different columns that we have. Initial risk assessment, residual risk assessment, and so on. And this is how you can do your risk reporting inside Jira dashboards. You can build your risk dashboard for both risk register report as well as the risk matrix report. Next, we'll look into how you can bring your risks onto your Confluence pages. Let's see now how you can do risk reporting inside Confluence. So we just looked at how you can pull the risk reports from Jira to Jira dashboard. And now we are in Confluence. And we have a possibility to add different risk reports here using risk macros. These macros is a part of the SoftComply Risk Manager for Confluence app that works together with the SoftComply Risk Manager Plus or Risk Manager apps. All you need to do then is add a / to your page in Confluence. and write risk. And you will see if you have the Risk Manager for Confluence installed, you can see 3 different macros appearing. You have the risk table macro, the risk history macro, and the risk matrix macro. As always in risk management, we start with the model. And in here, we start building the risk matrix macro. Exactly the same way as in Jira dashboard, we need to first determine which Jira project we want to pull the risks from. So we have a choice of all the different Jira projects here. And let's say we want to have the same risk report here in Confluence as we did in Jira dashboard. So we select the SAMD product risk Jira project that we have. And now we can choose the model because we have 2 different models assigned to that particular risk project. Let's say we want hazard analysis. And in here, we can also choose which one of the matrix we want. Is it initial or residual? Let's start with the initial. And let's say that we want to see how many risks we have in each risk class. We want to see which exact risks there are in each of the class. So we have the Jira issue keys there visible. We can also jump back to Jira from here. And because we're doing a full risk report in Confluence, I also want to know the risk acceptability criteria. So I say yes to risk class names, descriptions, and so on. And I also want to see exactly what type of risk classifiers or risk parameters I have in each risk class. So once I've done that, I close the editing the option. And here I can see that my risk matrix initial risk assessment is showing that I have 3 critical risks here and 1 serious. And I can see that 5 are still unclassified, so I haven't yet managed to assess these risks. And I also have the full information about the severity and probability here. And this was the initial risk matrix. So just under that, for example, we can build another one, which could be the residual risk matrix. So the same, the /risk macros appear. We choose the risk matrix macro. Again, we choose the same Jira project as before. The model we had was hazard analysis, and this time I want residual risks. And I just want the issue keys. I don't want to have the full report of the levels anymore because I already have it. In here, I can see that the 6 previously assessed risks, of them only 3 have gone through the residual assessment. So I have 2 risks lower to medium level and 1 on low level. So this is what you can do with risk matrix macros. And in here, I can also bring risk table or the risk register on the Confluence page. Exactly the same way of bringing them, we choose the project from where we want to report the risks. Now, just a reminder, Risk Manager Plus, just like Excel, has multiple sheets. This is also possible inside Jira with Risk Manager Plus app, that you have multiple sheets. In here, you can choose which sheet you want. I'm going to pick the hazard analysis, and the macro is loading, and it will show you the exact same risk register that you have inside Jira. So the entire table here, and if you click to any of them, the risks, you are taken back to Jira. So this is how you can bring your risk table here. And finally, you can also bring your risk history macro onto Confluence. So risk history macro shows you your risks and their assessment over time. So let's choose the same project and let's choose the same model that we had before. As a result of this macro, you will have a risk history graph. In the graph, you see the entire history of a certain risk. Because of the lines and the colors of initial risk and residual risks, we have only 2 risk iterations here, but if you have more, it will create more lines. So the maximum number of risks that you can have inside the risk history graph is 5, because otherwise it's very hard to read. Let's select 1 risk and then show both the iterations, initial and residual iteration. And in here, you can then also describe when you want the history graph to begin from. So in this particular example, the initial risk assessment, or you want to provide a custom time frame. So I'm going to choose the first risk assessment time. The one thing that is really useful is the data table. If there is a lot happening with the lines in the graph, you may want to see the data table underneath the graph as well, with the entire history of who changed what when for each one of the risks that you have chosen here. In here, I have 1 risk only, and you can see that there's a lot happening. And if you zoom into this graph, you can see that the initial risk has been modified on June 9th, and the residual risk has been modified the same day, a little bit later in time. This is how you can bring your risk reports to Confluence pages with the SoftComply Risk Manager for Confluence Cloud. You can bring your risk matrices, your risk tables, and your risk history graphs on Confluence pages. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck with your risk management. Bye-bye.